Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another fantastic episode of The Left Wing. I am TJ Whitehead, powers taken not given, joined as always by the Scarlet Pimpernel, John Cooper of Counterpoint Politics. How are you doing today, my friend?
Doing great, TJ. Glad to have you back here. It was a fun week without you. Had some excellent guests. Great longtime friends of the show. But it's always good to have the OG TJ Whitehead back.
Yes, it's just not quite the same, I imagine. Yeah, I saw we had Natalie and Nick coming in to give their takes on everything going on in the world right now. I was talking with our guests about backstage and, just doing pleasantries, asking how you guys doing. And we're like, as well as we can, right?
Of course. Who are our guests today, TJ?
Our guests are the Head in the Office boys, Jeremy and Gage, and I got a little clip from them. So if you guys aren't familiar with them, let's see what they have to offer. I find these guys quite enjoyable.
There's no recognition by the American electorate, certainly by like conservative politicians, that there is a such thing as the common interest.
Yeah.
And I think it's within the common interest that everybody is healthy, not just because like I want to be healthy, like for, selfish reasons, because it feels good to be healthy, but because society is better on the whole when everyone has access to the healthcare that they need to get up and go to work in the morning. There's of course the moral argument that I think everybody deserves to live a healthy and happy life and shouldn't be paywalled from getting access to the care that they need. But there's also like an economic and a social argument for the health of society to give everybody access to healthcare. There is a such thing as the common interest in the fact that we've allowed both, politicians on the left and the right have allowed us to devolve to this point where all that matters is the individual interest. I think is just toxic to a nation.
Rugged individualism is just like a cancer on this country. I swear to God, everybody just walks around thinking, oh, if I get mine, that's all that matters. Not understanding that other people getting theirs will help you get yours.
Yeah.
We live in a society, if you will.
And like there's conditions that apply to us equally, right? It's why like something like the Clean Water Act is important. Sure, you're paying into a system where you don't really see what happens to your tax money, but the fact that you have clean water and your neighbor has clean water is because there's a recognized common interest. It's the same thing for healthcare.
All right, let's without further ado, let's bring these boys to the stage. Gage and Jeremy, how are you doing today, guys?
What's going on?
What
a wonderful clip right there, if I do say so myself.
Oh, John. Okay, thank you, John. Yeah, so what you guys mentioned...
We've not done the setup for 4 people, TJ.
This is
the graphic today.
Believe me, I'm familiar with technical difficulties.
We're learning on the go. Yeah, that was a really good clip. And Gage, you mentioned something that we live in a society, which is which oddly enough, people don't seem to grasp this idea. And I don't know why that's so complex for them.
They only grasp like we live in a society in the context of like the Joker movie and becoming like more individual, as if society is this thing that oppresses people and they exist outside of, rather than something they live within and interact with people in all the time, literally every second of your life.
I like the analogy that conservatives, this usually applies to libertarians, you apply to conservatives too, but they're like house cats. They're fiercely confident in their own independence while having every single thing taken care of them in their lives. It is crazy. See, it's great to have you guys back on. You guys are our guests that we've been wanting to have back on for like ever. Like we always mention, who should we reach out to? And we're like, oh, what about Head in the Office guys? And it's good to see you guys again.
No, it's great to be back. It's great to be back.
Yeah, it's great to be back
in the chat. That bangs.
Absolutely.
That bangs.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, we definitely have some fans in the chat. I like Moss here. Best white boys out of mid-Michigan. That's
That's what I'm saying. We're the only two to get it going crazy out of Southeast Michigan.
Best white boys out of mid-Michigan. I didn't realize there was a competition. I didn't know that was up for grabs somewhere.
The white boy competition in mid-Michigan, I imagine, is quite intense. I imagine
it's wicked out here. It's wicked out here. The Midwest is quite a lot of us, so we got to make ourselves stand out.
That is fantastic shit. So, you guys mentioned the healthcare thing, and I found a clip. I don't know if you guys remember Duck Dynasty. Do any of you guys remember that show?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I don't know if any of you guys have seen this, but I found a clip from one of the Duck Dynasty guys, and I always love listening to these guys, not because what they have to say is interesting or important, but because it's insane. It's always nuts. And I found this random clip of them from Fox News, and I wanted to share it if you guys would permit. Let's see what one of the Roberts guys has to say.
Contrary to what Kamala Harris said, she says, elect me and everything's free. Look, everybody can have their own health care. The government's going to finance the whole thing. It's not going to cost but $30 trillion. I'm offering you the greatest deal you ever had. Elect me, and everything will be free.
But she's saying that other people who've been getting away with financial murder will pay for it, the rich.
What I'm saying is that...
Before we continue, can any of you guys tell me one time we heard Kamala Harris say that?
Man, I wish.
I think she might have been a lot more popular if she did say that. And I also got to say, he's saying that she was going to set up like a universal healthcare system for $30 trillion. Yet there would still be social murder somehow, even though it's a universal system and claim denial wouldn't be a thing. I don't understand what the talking point is, but probably shouldn't try to break this down too much.
Yeah, let's see.
Kamala, I already have health care. It's given to me by God, eternal health care. I'm guaranteed to be raised from the dead. I have life and immortality given to me by God through Jesus Christ.
People get sick on earth in their human form. So you advise...
The temporary reprieve is not worth it. I'm telling her I have eternal health care and it's free. Doctors can give you a little temporary reprieve, but they cannot save you from physical death. The doctors who treat you, they die too.
But you're not dismissing that people need health care, right? It's just
I didn't have health care for 50 years, and someone says, now I'm rich and famous. So I said, Miss Kay, you can buy every kind of insurance known to man if you want to. Well, but I never needed it for 50 years. So there you go.
Well, it's done you some good here.
All right, John. John, as our resident Catholic apologist here, I'd like you to address what Mr. Robertson had to say there.
So, funny thing is that when most millionaires do the whole shtick of oh, well, you don't really need this, or, oh, God will provide. And you're like, bro, you're worth millions of dollars. You're getting the best shit. You can't be saying this. I actually do believe Phil Robinson that he hasn't been to a doctor in 50 years. I genuinely believe that man practices what he preaches. It's stupid, but I believe he's genuinely that stupid.
Gage, what do you think? We'll go to you first.
Man, that's so gas. That's just the target right there. I feel like they're really playing to their base, and it seems like he even caught the host off guard with that one, because that's just what a rant. What a rant. Kamala's dangling free healthcare. Oh no, what a sin over the American populace. Wow, we don't need healthcare. You don't need to worry about your brother. We'll transcend.
When the host was like, but you do need
Right.
Doctors here on Earth.
No, brother, they die too. They die too. That's just the ultimate end all be. Eventually we're all dust. You know what I'm saying? We all live on a floating rock. Bro just did that, but like conservative coded. You're with your annoying friend on the patio on a Friday night, brother. We live on a rock.
Yeah, Christ. Yeah, Jeremy, what are your thoughts seeing that one?
I mean, it's like survivorship bias, right? Like maybe he hasn't been to a doctor his whole life, but like that doesn't mean that other people don't need it, obviously. Also, it's like very death culty. Like you'll get healthcare in the afterlife. You just have to die first. I don't know about that.
Yeah.
How's that going to sell in middle America?
It will.
It will.
It will.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
It 100% will. That Shane Gillis has a bit on this, I think, where he talks about how it's really impressive that healthcare companies have convinced Americans to think that it's gay or something to get healthcare or for free from the government, that they look down on it. Oh, what are you, like? What am I, a coward? I want to get sick and face it myself. I don't need some sissy doctor taking care of me. Or the flip side of that coin is God will take care of me. And if he doesn't, I'll be in heaven anyway. What does it matter? Actually, I'm sure you guys have all said this too. This is actually one of the more pernicious elements of religion, and how if you take your religion seriously, eventually you will come to a conclusion like that. Well, most religions that we're familiar with, at least. I'm sure there's some that it doesn't apply. But why would you care about global warming? God's going to destroy the earth anyway. Like, why would you care about any issues that are affecting people? Because it's all going to be solved in heaven, and we need to do what God says. I think it is literally death culty, because it doesn't value the human experience. It values the commands given by a divine arbiter.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and that's like especially prominent with evangelicals.
Yep.
Like we get a lot of that out of the evangelical Christians. It also is what motivates their stance on Israel. Like in their beliefs, they want Jewish people in the Holy Land because they think that's when the rapture happens. That's why they support Israel. That's why we have such like a high amount of Christian support in the U.S.
Zionism. It's crazy.
Well, oh no, John.
I was muted, sorry. But that is part of Zionism. Like, you'd be shocked if you go back to like the origination of Zionism, how many of them were literal fucking anti-Semites. Like, they were just like, yeah, we want to take all the Jews and move them over there. That sounds great to us.
It sounds great. We'll put them on this land without a people for a people without a land.
There were people like that were making arguments like in like various European governments that were
like
yes,
Churchill,
we should support Zionism because all the Jews are going to go to the Middle East and the Muslims are going to kill them all. Like that is the stated. You can go back in documents and read this. I'm not making it up. Like, this is legitimately what people thought, and it reflects exactly what you're saying today. Of oh yeah, we're going to support this. Just send the Jews over there and we get our rapture. Like, win-win.
I think the best argument we can make for how the Zionist movement was steeped in anti-Semitism is essentially this. Because if you think about it, like the reason that a lot of Americans do reflexively, or at least have reflexively supported Israel in the past, is because they recognize the horrors and the bigotry of Nazi Germany in the 1930s. It's like, okay, this is bad. It's we need to make a safe haven for these people so they aren't persecuted. Understandable. Absolutely got it. However, why there? Like, why there? Like, because there's some tie from 3,000 years ago. The nation of Israel hasn't existed since, I think, 586 BC or something like that. And honestly, if you think about it, what should have happened after World War II, we've mentioned on the show, that they should have given them Germany. That's what should have happened. That after the World War II ended, like, okay, listen, Germany, you guys showed, you played your cards here. You lose the country. Now it's a Jewish state. And they didn't want that because because of the anti-Semitism in Europe, they didn't want the Jewish people there. They wanted them gone. But that would have solved a lot of problems, I think. I think that if we'd have got that taken care of, it would have been fine.
Yeah, it would have been maybe an investment in the future, considering what's happening right now and what's been happening for a while.
I agree.
I do want to say thank you to the word of Microsoft here, $5 donation, saying Christian nationalism is a death cult with a breeding kink. Hell yeah, that's pretty much exactly what it is.
I like that.
I also want to say we have a lot of people in the comments here. I imagine they're joining from the Head in the Office show. Lots of fans over there. So going to tell you guys,
shout out word.
If you like if you like Head in the Office, I imagine you're going to like the Left Wing. It's pretty similar style of content.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Shout out word of Microsoft. Just gave them a shout out earlier too.
Yeah. This is our Q&A show, so if you guys have any questions for us, make sure to drop them in the comments. We always want to answer. With 4 people, it might be a little bit harder, but we'll definitely try and get to it. What have you guys, Jeremy and Gage, what have you guys been, what's been on your mind recently? There's obviously about a million things. There's a fire hose of information every single day. Everyone kind of has their lanes that they're more focused on. What have you guys been really looking at recently?
For us, a lot of it's been, at least on our show, a lot of it's been like budget talk lately because they're trying to kill people with all these Medicaid cuts. But on like the sort of liberal critique side, I've been like nonstop thinking about the abundance liberal stuff, and also the stuff we got from the New York Times recently that said the DNC's pouring like tens of millions of dollars into trying to find like the liberal Joe Rogan type thing. I think a lot of liberals are just hopelessly lost right now, and it's sad to see because they're the only like mainstream opposition we have. But it's also like, yeah, these are your ideological deficiencies. So
yeah, I do want to follow up on that because you're totally right about like, don't spend tens of million dollars to learn how to relate to us and just talk to us like normal fucking people. That's what you do. Do not spend any money on figuring it out and just go have a beer and fucking talk to us. Like that, it's not that hard. If you're spending that much money, you're doing it wrong. Also, the left wing Joe Rogan already exists. It's fucking Bill Burr. We all know that. I want to hear your take on the abundance thing because I haven't read the book. I haven't delved too much into the discourse. I seem to hear leftists in general are anti-abundance, and I don't quite get it because what I have heard from it seems to make a lot of sense. Let's deregulate things that are causing us to not build housing so we get more and more of everything. I heard Ezra Klein describe it as a spiritual successor to fully automated luxury communism, which is a book I have read and do like. And it seemed like he was repackaging a lot of the ideas in that book for a more liberal, moderate audience. That's the impression I got just from listening to interviews and everything, but I haven't read the book. but I also haven't quite understood the substantive critique. So I would love to hear just like your thoughts on that entire drama.
I think the abundance guys are a lot less insidious than, the centrist types that try to associate themselves with the left wing, or certainly like the Republican Party, right? Like these guys aren't fascists that are trying to destroy the country. I just think that their critique, I think a lot of their policy prescriptions are good, but the issue for me is that they try to sell it as a paradigm shift. And, changing zoning laws is a good idea, or maybe rolling back some red tape and regulations so we could more easily make solar panels and, move green energy around. Like that's a good idea. And that stuff is absolutely necessary. But it's sort of downstream from the broader issue of commodification of essential resources and the capture of our government by wealthy interests. I think that explains almost every problem we face nowadays, like economically, aside from social issues where, of course, transphobia, racism, and all of that are still big problems. And they just don't have much of a critique of concentrated wealth in the way that translates into political power. And when they've been pushed on this, I believe Derek Thompson said the point of the book is to win a fight that's happening within the liberal democratic coalition right now. And I think Ezra Klein said, like, there are no enemies to the agenda, when in my view, the biggest enemies, the biggest obstacles to abundance liberalism are precisely the people they don't criticize, which is the wealthy interests that I think help fund the writing of the book. So at the end of the day, I think it's not leftism. It's liberalism repackaged and maybe a little bit stronger than what we saw in the election.
It's just like they're selling zoning reform as if it's revolution. And that's just corny,
So I agree with every aspect of that critique, except that I don't think it actually is strategically beneficial. Like I think from everything I've heard, the rhetoric I've heard from them, it sounds like what I do when I'm talking to my 50-year-old, middle class suburban aunt about these topics. And I can't go full on, eat the rich, bring out the guillotines, but I need to get a wedge in there to be like, hey, there are some things that we can fix and move in this direction. And that's what it felt to me like these guys have been selling. And then I think a lot of like people on the left heard sort of like, revolutionary rhetoric, that sort of thing. And we're like, bro, that's stolen valor. That's our shit. This is bullshit. But as you said, Jeremy, there's not too much substantive critique with any of the policy prescriptions. They're generally all right. I'm sure there's, valid criticism. But that's why I haven't heard like, oh, this sucks. It's more so just the rhetoric and positioning sucks. And I would argue it's kind of necessary. I gotta yank these people somehow.
I think I think the lane they occupy is fine. Again, like I'm not like openly hostile to these guys. I just think it misses the fact that political economy is a thing. And it's a thing that the left and even liberals should be focused on critiquing. Like FDR was a liberal, you know what I mean? But he went after the rich. And that's just a necessity right now. In your policy prescriptions, which again, they don't have bad ones, you need to include active hostility to the rich, because I think it's a pretty ubiquitous feeling that everyone feels like the rich are fucking people over. They also have a weird thing about AI in the book. Like for some reason, they think the benefits of artificial intelligence will be evenly distributed, even though artificial intelligence is very obviously a privatized asset that is going to stay that way unless the government intervenes. I don't know.
It's never been evenly distributed.
Yeah, I think there's space for them though. Ultimately, I think there's space for it, as long as it's not an attempt to just ice out like actual left-wing critiques, which my cynicism tells me it is.
Yeah, I think it's broadly like Ezra Klein calling it a paradigm shift is really the biggest thing I take issue with, because when you present something as these revolutionary new policy prescriptions, there's something inherent to that prescription that makes like the viewer think that that is the cutting edge of where people are having these discussions. You know what I mean? It just presents zoning reform as radical when in fact it's really not. Give me rent control low key sometimes. Like that's a radical policy in some ways. I think it presents itself like that's the far left and contributes to the alienation of people on our side who actually do believe in anti-capitalist views, some things, and push for further policy prescriptions. It doesn't give space for us.
If you guys notice, I was suspiciously quiet during that entire interaction because I haven't read a book in 8 years and I don't know anything about what's in there. So yeah,
That's valid,
sorry.
King.
Yeah,
that
sorry.
happens
That's
sometimes.
okay.
I got nothing to add there. You mentioned the AI, the implementation of that. I like somewhere in there I heard that, and I'm not AI makes me very worried. Not just because I'm old, but because how I see it being implemented in the future, not just with academia, but especially with work. I think it's going to continue the trend that we've seen. I don't know forever, where it's going to make it could like best case scenario make work easier and more productive, but we're not going to see any benefits of that. I was thinking about that today when women first joined the workforce en masse during World War II. And after that, women started working more and more, and essentially we doubled our workforce. And instead of just having everyone work 20 hours a day, since you had twice the workforce, everyone's going to work 40 and we're going to pay you less. That's what happened. So I don't see why that wouldn't happen again with AI, barring some, major changes on that. Oh, did you guys see John, I don't know if you guys covered this last week, but the big, beautiful bill, by the way, I thought that was Trump's nickname for the bill. That's the official name of it.
It's so stupid.
I could not believe. Yeah, it's called the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. Yep. I was reading an article on CNN or something, and it was actually abbreviated OBBBA or something.
Legislation was named boringly because
it
was corny.
I miss like forced acronyms or something, but now we got Trump stupid shit going on.
Yeah.
Did you see that there's a provision in the One Big Beautiful Bill to ban state governments from regulating AI for 10 years? Did you see that?
Yeah, that was a big thing that we talked about on our show because not enough people are talking about it. That's just why. Why? That can't make it past the parliamentarian.
We're hanging our hopes there. I know it's all going to be taken care of now. No problem at all there, folks. One thing I wanted to bring up, speaking of Trump, is I don't know if you guys noticed the title of the show, but I asked if Donald Trump was the most patriotic president ever. And I asked this question because during the lead up, actually, it still hasn't happened yet, but Trump wanted the big military parade. And I saw him say that, well, this isn't actually a parade for my birthday, like people are claiming. This is actually a parade to celebrate the 250th anniversary of the United States military. And so I heard that and thought, Trump's walked himself into a corner here, because like any good veteran, I know that the United States military's birthday is June 14th, 1775, Flag Day. So unless Trump's birthday just happens to be Flag Day, then he's going to be caught in a lie. And as you guys probably know, Trump was literally born on Flag Day. Literally born.
I did the same thing. I looked it up and I was like, that motherfucker.
That's fucked up. There's no way.
It's perfect. It is like he was a born.
He keeps getting away with it.
He was a patriot. Fighting from the first day of existence, and that verifies the theory that I've said many times that Donald Trump actually is blessed by God, and God is evil. I think that how can I argue with it at this point? But also, I wanted to pull this up for the good folks out there that Trump is the first president to propose a $1 trillion military budget, making him the greatest patriot of all, if you ask me. But there was something he said during this speech I wanted to play for everyone.
We have that army geared up. We have ordered, we just went $1 trillion military budget, General. You know that? $1 trillion. Some people say, could you cut it back? I said, I'm not cutting 10 cents. There's another thing we can cut. We can cut plenty of others. Right, Dan? We can cut plenty of other things. And you have a good man in Dan, too, General. I think you're going to find that. It's a very different warfare out there today. Now they've introduced a thing called drone. A drone is a little bit different. You have to go back, learn a whole new form of warfare, and you're going to do it better than anybody else. There won't be anybody close.
All right. Jeremy, we'll go to you first this time. What do you think?
I mean, I did not expect him to bring up, they invented drones recently. I just found out. But it's funny that his whole presidency, or a lot of it so far, has been defined by this pursuit of waste, fraud, and abuse, and the one place they don't touch is military contracts, which there probably is legitimately a lot of waste, fraud, and abuse. And then we could actually maybe cut down on the military budget if we identify all the waste, fraud, and abuse with those contracts. But it's not surprising he wants a $1 trillion military budget. It's a waste, in my opinion.
He loved big number. He loves doing big number. He loves doing big things. And I think that's all where his head's at. It's ridiculous. We should be enforcing like mandatory profit margins on government contracts. Like there's no fucking way it should be like this. I think there are in some instances we do have regulations on how much you can profit off of a government like military contract. But there's like a Bernie Sanders article that I was reading from like a couple of years back. They just don't go enforced. Like Raytheon, Lockheed Martin just constantly defraud us.
Well, I mean, the Pentagon hasn't passed an audit in 8 years, so how would we even know?
Yeah. So it's just ridiculous.
The only thing that surprised me when Trump said that he wanted a $1 trillion Pentagon budget is that he didn't do this while he was saying it.
That would have been perfect. That would have been perfect. I know.
Great joke for the audio listeners.
Biden's inflation hit way too crazy for this to $1 billion to be sailing in anymore. It's ridiculous.
Oh, you're right. You're right. This is a literal Austin Powers moment. Billion has lost its power, and now it's trillion. Wow, we're living right through it. Yeah, that was. There is no point. We've been in this game for quite a while now, and we know that there is no point at all in trying to hypocrisy burn right wingers when they say that Trump is an anti-war president, the Democrats are warmongers, Trump's going to get in there and go after the military-industrial complex. None of them are going to be complaining about $1 trillion military budget. None of them. I mean, first one, let me know when you see it, because I just don't think we're across it. And we invented a new thing called drone. Wild thing to say in 2025, but
Brother,
maybe
drone
going to the top of the list of my favorite Trump quotes right there. That's fantastic.
Didn't he kill Soleimani with a drone?
Oh no, the senility is kicking in.
Yeah, buddy, you've been around this block a couple times.
Oh Christ! We got any questions, John, from the audience? I see quite a few comments. Any questions from the folks here?
Someone asked me to turn up my my audio, so that's what I'm trying to figure out how to do right now. Thank you, the Lord of Microsoft. I will do that.
BBL bill, baby, let's go.
I haven't seen too many. Conservatory of the Oasis says asked, weren't women only allowed to join the workforce during World War II because of the shortage of male workers, though? So was the workforce actually increased? Here's the thing. So the workforce wasn't increased. And I will die on this hill. The paid labor force was increased.
Oh, Jesus.
The workforce was
not. Bro's cooking. He's getting in that second shift type shit.
It's not like women were sitting around on their fucking hands all day where the men went out and worked. They were taking care of the home. They were taking care of children. Very important job. In fact, probably the highest ROI job that most people can do is take care of a child.
Yeah, Bro's cooking. Domestic labor is labor
for our society. And all the women started working for the private sector or the public sector, but then what happened? Well, education became childcare. And we just kind of dumped more and more of this labor onto the public sector, onto teachers that made less and less money. And it's no surprise that our education industry became what is today, and how people can't even fucking understand basic statistics. Or TJ, how many Americans are illiterate? Is this?
It was 71%, I think, is what it was, or
not illiterate. The literacy rate is 71% in America.
Yeah, I think I've seen like 1 in 5 Americans are functionally illiterate.
Wild. Yeah, that is some sad shit. Yeah. So to the question there. Yeah. So during the question they asked was, did the workforce actually increase because the women were replacing the men who were deployed? Right, that would have equaled out, but it was after World War II when the labor workforce, the paid labor workforce participation actually increased. And by the time the 70s came along, and also when you started getting laws stating that you couldn't pay women or minorities less, that companies said, okay, well, everyone's getting paid less. And instead of paying everyone equally or just decreasing work hours, something that could have happened. But this is actually, I can't remember, John, I got into a mini debate with someone who said that I think it was Off Your Wagon about Jimmy Carter. That was actually one of my biggest complaints about Carter, that Carter didn't have the FDR spirit in him to actually go after capital like that FDR did a few generations earlier, and saying, okay, you guys, we actually can buckle and fold to your demands to keep your wealth. And we've been tanking ever since. All right. Okay. Sorry, John, go ahead.
No, I was just going to remind everyone that you can ask us questions. This is our Tuesday Q&A show, so if you have any questions for us, chime on in. I'm reading this cold. I hope. Yeah, I just heard. I have a question. Chris Street says, "I have a question that is relevant to me. Have y'all seen who they made new Postmaster General? And if so, what are your thoughts? Has anyone seen who was made new Postmaster General? Because I have not seen.
I have not seen who is the new Postmaster General, but I wouldn't be surprised if they just put like the FedEx CEO in there. The rate that things have been going.
You are on with 4 political nerds. You got to find some nerdier folks to find out who the Postmaster General is. We are not that level, man.
His name is David Steiner. And I'm looking up. You're right. I would be shocked if he didn't used to work for FedEx.
Probably FedEx UPS guy. Maybe DHL.
He played a postman on TV. Would be my guess.
It's a FedEx executive.
FedEx executive. Incredible. Wow.
Yep.
Incredible.
Gage. You were on point.
Let's go, baby. I got my finger on the pulse.
Jesus Christ. I don't understand, man. I will go to my grave just shocked that 70-some million people voted for Donald Trump. Think it's a good idea. The guy is a cartoon character. He sees. I saw a wild number of how many Fox News people work in the Trump White House. Did you guys see that? I can't remember.
It's 23 now.
It's like 20 something. Yeah, it is insane. After he hired Jeanine Pirro. But speaking of people asking dumb questions and everything, did you guys see Jordan Peterson in that Jubilee thing? Did you see any clips of that?
I saw clips. Okay.
Yeah,
my favorite one where he was trying to he's like, well, how do you define belief? And then he just wouldn't answer the damn question.
I think that might be the one I have here.
Yes.
I think I actually might have that one right here. Yeah, I actually have a hard time watching Jubilee. I just it's really difficult because I don't know. Well, fuck it. Here, let's play the clip here. I think this is the one that Gage was discussing.
Why is that relevant?
Because you go to a Catholic church, don't you? Or you've attended recently. You're interested in Catholicism, aren't you?
Sure.
All right. Are you familiar with their doctrines?
Somewhat.
Okay. You're
their
familiar.
Doctrines are very
how do they
deep.
regard Mary?
Why are you asking me that?
Because you're a Christian.
You say that. I haven't claimed that.
Oh, what is this? Is this Christians versus atheists?
I don't know.
You don't know where you are right now.
Don't be a smartass.
Well,
and I mean
either you're a Christian or you're not.
To you if you're a smartass.
Oh, either you're a Christian or you're not. Which one is it?
I could be either of them, but I don't have to tell you.
You don't have to tell me. I was under the impression I was invited to talk to a Christian. Am I not talking to a Christian?
No, you were invited to.
I think everyone should look at the title of the YouTube channel. You're probably in the wrong YouTube video.
You're really quite something. You are.
Aren't I? But you're really quite nothing, right? You're not a Christian.
Okay, I'm done with him.
All right.
For somebody who endlessly critiques postmodernism and whatnot, he constantly exists in the in-betweens. He will not answer a goddamn question, and he will just continue to play semantics anytime he's getting pressed.
I saw someone mention this, that when Peterson is forced to actually claim what he believes, they stated that he retreats into a semantic fog. And that is the best description I've heard about Jordan Peterson. It is just, it's obnoxious. Like, Peterson is I think Peterson is like the final boss of this Jubilee stuff, because Peterson is someone who's unwilling to actually have a debate, and kind of shows how farcical a lot of it is. And Jeremy, you said you don't like Jubilee either, or why is that?
I think the content is like the peak of slop. I can't stand like the debate farming stuff, and especially when they have like a liberal or liberal coded person in the Surrounded video, and they invite like, I swear, like Hitler Youth Nazi people to come and debate them. Like, I think they had like an LGBTQ activist recently, and the people they had on were just like the most diabolical people you can imagine. And I think it's bad for society. I think the Jubilee videos are harmful overall to the discourse, and very clearly not representative.
In the Sam Cedar video, they had that one chick that was arguing for xenophobic nationalism. She said, no, that's a great thing. That's a good thing. And then she went on again to argue against an LGBTQ activist to say that, like, no, you can't have bus sex. Brother. She was arguing about like fecal incontinence as a means to say that gay people should be able to love each other. Like, what are we talking about?
No.
Yeah. And the whole premise of the Surrounded thing is that like you run up there, and then the rest of the 20 people can vote you off if you're like performing poorly. It like incentivizes getting your clips in, like getting your sound bites. There is no nuanced discussion happening. If debates have ever been useful for like even convincing audience members to change their positions, if not the debaters, this certainly does not do it. It's all just like, right-winger conservative gets owned or liberal gets owned. It's a waste of time, in my opinion.
I'm surprised we haven't heard anyone claim the show is ableist since you have to run to the chair. No. I haven't heard anybody say this, and it's excluding a lot of debaters. Sorry, John, we're going to say?
So I'm going to take the devil's advocate position here.
Of course.
Because, Jeremy, I agree that it's slop. It's fucking slop. But on the scale of slop, it's some of the best slop we got. Like, I would rather people be mindlessly watching this than mindlessly watching, like, random AI gen shit. Like, in terms of political slop content, it is of the higher tier. And to me, demonstrates a demand for more of this kind of shit that might actually be good. Like, we haven't had a political debate mainstream show since Crossfire back in the day. And I think there's real demand for it. And I think Jubilees, because Jubilee isn't like good at what they do, right? Like they're not putting together, clearly they're not putting together the best content, but it's consistently catching fire and starting conversations online, partially because, they're looking for the clip slop thing. But I think it's generally a good thing. I don't know. Like I would say it is on the good side of content machines these days. And at least it isn't like pushing a specific agenda.
I think that it does end up pushing a specific agenda in like more like kind of like insidious ways too. I'm especially thinking of like the old middle ground videos back before they got this new format, whatnot. I remember explicitly in like back when I was in like high school, they had like one video that was like cops versus convicted criminals. Can they find middle ground? And it's presented just constantly in the centrist framework where the institutional bias is clearly towards the cops when they're talking to people who just got out of prison. You know what I mean? And it's just like something about it seems like it always just ends up skewing right wing because it refuses to take a side. And even when things are more left wing or the left wing person is owning them, like in the Sam Cedar debate, I think ultimately people just walk away feeling the same way that they felt going in, and people are watching this content for the like rage bait stuff. I think maybe there's like 20% of people in the middle that can be swayed, but I don't think the format is necessarily made to sway people.
I think
you are
not
apply to everything.
Well, that applies to everything.
Going, you know what? I changed my mind.
No,
I'm not voting for Trump anymore after I watched John and DJ talk.
It's certainly not Steven Crowder changed my mind. It's definitely on a higher tier than that. But I just I'm so wary, I guess, or like cautious of the centrist who claims that you can actually be a centrist when presenting information, because there's always some sort of bias that creeps its way in there. And oftentimes, if you're arguing for status quo or you're trying to appear like you're not taking a stance against the status quo, you're reinforcing the status quo. It's my same argument that I had. Ken Martin released an op-ed on Time criticizing David Hogg for what he's doing, trying to raise $20 million to fund like primary challenges for do nothing Democrats. And Ken Martin's argument was that we cannot make DNC officials feel like they're biased in some sort of way towards either candidate. But the absence of that bias is allowing the people who have existed in this institution to continue to go on unchallenged. That's kind of where I land when it comes to this. Again, I don't think the Jubilee stuff is as problematic as Ken Martin doing that, but I think it's cut from the same cloth, and I think it warrants discussion because I think ultimately there's an irresponsible audience out there too, due to like a lack of media literacy.
Look, I first think, Gage, you're being far too generous with the 20% that can be swayed on it.
Real.
I think far, far too generous on that. Second, I guess I'm the anomaly here. I'm solidly anti this content. I see very little redeeming value in it at all. Yeah. Even if it is just slop, I think it is more harmful than not. And I think that my example with like John, you mentioned that, well, what's the difference between that and what we do? Because we're not in the changing hearts and minds business here, or we don't expect conservatives to watch this and change their minds, although they should. The smarter ones will, but the rest of them, the vast majority, probably won't. But
any day now.
Yeah, it may take him 5 years instead of your average conservative would take 15. But I look at it more that we do two things here. We do primarily entertainment. That's what social media, that's what posting, that's what it is. It's primarily entertainment, and secondarily, it's education. That's what it is. That's what we try to do. The debates are all entertainment. There's no education going on there, because if anyone watches the debate, number one, they're curious about the topic, right? Or they have a stake in the topic. Very few people stumble into a debate on a topic they have no interest in whatsoever. I really enjoy the blood sports of battling minds and wits going. No one's doing that. They're watching debates for the same reason we all watch debates. We watch our side to see if we can pick up some good points and kind of just like breeze through. Oh, is the other side saying anything stupid? No one's really going into it with a critical ear. So. And also, when years ago, there was, what was his name? Ken Ham was a creationist, and he did a debate about creation versus evolution against Bill Nye. This is a long time ago, if you guys remember that.
I watched it. I think
I watched
it.
Yeah. Okay, and so when that happened, I thought that was a terrible move by Bill Nye, because all you're doing is making it seem like it's a legitimate position where someone like Bill Nye is going to debate this insane huckster trying to sell tickets to his Noah's Ark creation museum and all that. And with the debate stuff, I think we hold debate in a higher caliber than it deserves. Like John and I, we've talked. Actually, John, I'm pretty sure we get the same take on this, that the presidential debates are essentially a waste of time. The only thing the presidential debate does is show you how competent you are in presenting your ideas to the nation, which Joe Biden dropped the ball on, which makes it very funny. That's literally all you had to do. But since the rise, I ask you guys this question. I'll put it this way to close it up. Since the rise of internet debate culture, 8, 10, 12 years ago, when the debate bro was going, has political discourse gotten worse or better? It's gotten significantly worse. That when like conservatives used to be your Rush Limbaugh guys, your Glenn Beck guys, now they're all open Nazis, and debating them has not helped stop that. It's actually metastasized the problem. So that's my thought on it. I don't know, but it's not going anywhere. That all being said, let's have another clip here of the debate going on. Gage, this is the one. I'm pretty sure.
Wait, I gotta call a spade here, TJ. We're like, I'm so anti this. This is bad for us. It's bad for society. It's killing internet discourse.
No, this is commentary.
Let's go.
Let's take a look. Let's take a look.
This is commentary. It's
exactly. Thank you, Gage. Thank you very much.
Would save them.
Can there ever be a circumstance logically that lying could save someone?
Yeah, and if you're steeped in sin, you're likely to live in circumstances like that.
I'll give you an example. If you're like in like Nazi Germany, and it is the case that there's like Jewish people in your attic and you're trying to protect them, would you lie to like the Nazis?
I would have done everything I bloody well could, so I wouldn't be in that situation to begin with. It's a hypothetical, and it's not answerable.
Hypotheticals?
No, I can't answer a hypothetical like that because it's far. Look. Don't play games.
I'm not playing games.
Yes, you are. If you present me with an intractable moral choice that's stripped of context and you back me into a corner, you're playing game. I just told you I would do everything that I could to make sure that I'm never in that situation. By the time you've got there, you've made so many mistakes that there's nothing you can do that isn't a sin.
All right, John, I guess we'll go to you first. Can you let us know what sins people who were hiding the Jewish folks during the Holocaust made to get to that situation?
This was my big. I thought the guy that was debating Jordan Peterson here did a excellent job of trying to remain patient as Jordan Peterson just refused to answer any question or even participate in debate. But like he should have brought that up, like that. Yeah, what mistakes did you make to have Jews in your basement? Why was that a mistake? What mistake did you make to put yourself in that position? It seems to me that the argument you're making, Jordan Peterson, is that it would be a mistake to harbor Jews from the Nazis. That is the only thing, unless he's like somehow responsible for the rise of Nazi Germany in this hypothetical, in which case also, yeah, you're right. Yeah, Jordan, you're an asshole there. And the idea, just, I know it doesn't matter. I know Jordan Peterson's never going to fucking lock himself in a position. It's what he always does. But like, bro, this isn't some random hypothetical. This isn't some like impossible thing that could never happen, stripped of context, as he claims. It's a thing that happened many times. Yeah. Many times throughout history in different situations, and we're giving you the specific historical context of this situation. You can read books about it. A girl named Anne Frank wrote an excellent one. You should read it. Like, it's like, this isn't like some weird hype that you're stuck in a cabin, like will never happen. No, this shit happens. It's happening right now. It's going to be happening in this country more and more if we continue on the current pace. It's a clearly obvious hypothetical to be asked. Everyone should be asking themselves right now, what would you do in Nazi Germany if the Gestapo went into the war and was looking for the Jews? Like, what would you do? And people don't want to answer that question right now. I don't know why.
Yeah, stripped of context when we're talking about Nazi Germany is just utterly insane. One of the most well-documented events in like human history, low key. All he's asking, would you hide the Jews? I'd never put myself in that position in the first place. What, born in Germany? Like, these are not positions that you put yourself in. These are positions that you find yourself in. And that's why it's important to be asking these hypotheticals and thinking through the morality of the situation. Jordan Peterson's a funny guy, man. And then just hitting that line, I'd never be so steeped in sin that I'd get there. Buddy never told a white lie before. No. Buddy never said he put the laundry away when he didn't. Like,
that's literally where the debate goes, where he's just like, I would never tell a lie. It's like, you would never tell a lie.
Really, buddy? Okay, sure.
If someone would come to you and said, say this pen is fake, you wouldn't say this pen is fake?
Yeah, no, officer, I wasn't speeding.
Buddy. Yeah,
he says, don't be so sure. Yeah, I agree with all that. And it's also like, he's saying you can't back me into a quarter, strip from context and demand an answer. It's like, dog, it's a hypothetical. Like, that's one of like the most basic components of debating is answering hypotheticals, because you isolate the variables and we figure out what you really believe. It's just like, and he knows that, right? Like he has a PhD, like he was teaching at a university in Canada before he got fired. So it's like, whatever.
Yeah, that's true. I do have to wonder about the academic standards of Canadian professors, that they allowed this guy to be there at all. Honestly, like, good on you for firing him, but the fact that he was there in the first place does give me pause. I get really frustrated listening to Jordan Peterson. I don't know how anyone does it. There was that, what did he say that one time? When you ask, did that happen? It begs the question, what do you mean by happen? And this is just how every conversation Peterson goes. I don't know. I genuinely don't understand why Christians like him. Because as a Christian, I would find him insufferable and insulting, because he doesn't come right. Even during that interview, he refused to say he was a Christian. And he kind of, vaguely gestures towards it, that this is a good thing, but I wouldn't like him on my side. The lie question, John, Gage and Jeremy, did you guys grow up religious by any chance? I don't know. Okay. You guys, they're not going to know what we're talking about, John. But okay, so there's a story in the Bible where the Israelites find a woman named Rahab, and I think it's Jericho. And when they're going to conquer Jericho, they send in 2 spies. She hides the spies from the army and lets them out of her window. And they say, okay, thank you for saving our lives. When we come destroy the city and massacre everyone, we're not going to kill you. And a question that was popular in Christianity is, hey, was Rahab rewarded for lying? And people just try so hard to dance around this question and say, oh, well, maybe. Yes, she was, obviously, because not all lies are created equal. Gage, the example you gave is one I would always use with this question, that if we're going to say the Christian thing to do is to always follow the rules, always be honest and everything, if someone is dying and bleeding out there in your car, you're not going to speed to get to the hospital. Of course you are. Of course you are. And you're going to tell me that's a sin? It just creates this horrendous black and white thinking, ironically, like Peterson said, devoid of context, to try to get to make life simpler. And and the easiest hypothetical ever. I don't understand that one. What do you think, John?
Yeah, I mean, it's what they always do. And I think I want to tie it back to what Jeremy and Gage were talking about in that video clip that we showed at the beginning of the show, of how, that they're going to argue that we need, what was the term? Not independence, rugged
individualism.
But the thing is, they don't actually think that. They're talking about a system of private insurance, which is not individualistic by nature. Like it must involve, by definition, millions and millions of people to be inside of it for the system to work. It cannot exist on an individual level. So if you are going to make the argument that we should improve this system in any way, shape, or form, it has to come in a collective effort. And so my argument is always, you should take the personal responsibility to make the communal benefit better. And that's always what my response is to these people, because they take it on one end. They'll be like, oh, we need rugged individualism. Stop giving, fucking free lunch to kids. But then they'll also be like, oh, but also we need to end no-fault divorce because that leads to more divorces, and we need to continue the human population and repopulate. It's like, bro, you can't have it both ways. But they have it both ways by muddying the waters and never actually holding any set of, coherent principles. And that's how they get away with all this bullshit. And Jordan Peterson's an egregious example. I don't think I've ever seen anyone just refuse to even debate in a debate that
why
they
is he
are
there?
scheduled to appear on.
Why are you there?
What was that, John?
But I said, but they all do this to some extent. And also, it's not a conservative thing. Like, honestly, Democratic politicians are fucking atrocious at this, where they just refuse to take a position.
Yeah.
And, look at Donald Trump. You can say a lot of things about Donald Trump. He takes a fucking position. He's not always clear in what his position is, and it totally flip-flops all the fucking time. But when he says today that he's friends with Putin, I believe him. And when he says tomorrow that Putin pissed him off, I still believe him. I think it's completely coherent. He's changed his mind. He's not a coherent person. But the position is, I think, honest and true most of the time. And when it isn't, he kind of has a way of letting you know that he's bullshitting. Whereas, like, a lot of people just don't. They just bullshit all the time. And I feel like that's one of the reasons Trump succeeds when Democrats continuously fail.
I always say that I would never describe Trump as honest, but I would describe him as genuine. And there's a significant difference there that, like, when Trump talks, when I hear your average politician, Hakeem Jeffries, well, maybe he's a bad example, but Chuck Schumer or Elizabeth Warren, when they're talking in public and making a speech, I don't think that's how they sound to their family and friends. I believe they have, Trump, yes, he sounds exactly the same on stage as he does with anyone he knows. I genuinely believe that. And so people do sense that genuine expression of who you are as an individual. Even if you are lying, they appreciate the fact that you're not trying to circumvent around how you actually feel about something, because like John said, like, we have the Democrats who just exhibit Super Saiyan 2 cowardice every single time they get on stage and talk, and it's really annoying. Here's a question from Colby. Do you have suggestions, thoughts on dealing with the liberal struggle to appeal to young men? Like, how do we even combat this when stripping civil rights not meaningfully moving for when stripping civil rights is not meaningfully moving anyone? As the youngest man on this panel, I think I'm qualified to go first and answer this question here. I think one thing that we need to stop doing is, we've been having this liberal Joe Rogan discussion for a long time. John mentioned that we already have one. It's Bill Burr. I mentioned that we had one before, Jon Stewart. We've had liberal Joe Rogans before. That the main problem we're running into is a lot of content that guys are drawn to is right-wing coded. At least the content creators are right-wing coded. If you just want to get into working out or sports or something like that, or war documentary, like stuff that guys are into, a lot of the biggest influencers happen to be right-wing. So I think that if we want to do that, we got to start infiltrating society in ways outside of the nerd shit we do on a day-to-day basis. That's one way I think we could do it. I don't know if it'll create a liberal, because Joe Rogan isn't inherently a political talk show, right? It's just a talk show about random shit. And then he became popular and went. So I think they're going about it absolutely backwards. Jeremy, what do you think?
I mean, people have been debating about this for a while. On a fundamental level, when it comes to just Democratic unpopularity, I think it, like you were saying before, it comes down to authenticity. Like, so many Democrats just will not state their beliefs because they want to poll test them or focus group them first. Yep. That shit's got to stop, because people can feel it when you don't genuinely believe in something. And when you don't actually have like a critique of like, the material conditions that people are suffering in. But when it comes to young men explicitly and like the content creation space, I mean, I think it comes down to how conservatives and Republicans will open their arms to anybody, but the DNC is very selective about who they incorporate in the coalition. Like, Hassan Piker went to the DNC. Hassan Piker, very critical of the Democratic Party, regardless of what you think about him. He gets kicked out like the second day. And that type of shit is what alienates a lot of people, because their creators they like just aren't incorporated or aren't invited at all. And that's not to say that like if a content creator or a public person is being, misogynistic or racist, that we should just like invite them in. But I think that I don't know, extending space for more people, even those that are critical of the Democratic Party, would be helpful to getting more young men in specifically. But ultimately, I think it's all downstream from the authenticity issue. I think people just look at Democrats and don't trust them.
Gage, what do you think?
Yeah, my biggest thing is that Joe Rogan is not a politics first streamer, or is not a politics first like podcaster.
Yep.
That's and to me that's the crux of the issue. Joe Rogan, like you said, he has interesting conversations. Shit, everybody used to watch Joe Rogan. I used to watch Joe Rogan while I was playing Minecraft pre-pandemic. Like, put that shit on and build my base. You know what I'm saying? And he just so happens to peer into political conversations. He had the platform, he had the influence first before he had the conservatism. And then it goes into what Jeremy's saying about how the conservative like apparatus isn't as selective as the Democrats are. They were much more willing to go on these like internet podcasts, these unserious shows than like any sort of person who has any sway in the Democratic Party was going to. And that's how they helped capture Joe Rogan's audience and transfer it to their own. The Democrats just don't want to do that. And there needs to be a broader initiative to just making them cool.
Yeah. I think, and I'll add one other thing there, which is like a lot of I think more content creators than we think are funded by right-wing organizations, even if they aren't like explicitly political. Like Theo Von, for example, is fairly right-wing coded, although he shares some left-wing views on occasion. Not that long ago, he was having dinner with Jared Kushner. Mm-hmm. Like there's a lot of content creators out there that are funded by the Republican Party or Republican or conservative sort of the apparatus. The DNC would never give money to Gage and I. We are far too critical of the Democratic Party. We're far too anti-capitalist for them to support us. And that's partially because they rely on donations from the wealthy. But it's also, I think they just aren't brave enough to do something like that. That's not to say I necessarily favor or even would accept DNC money. And I don't even necessarily know if I'd want them like astroturfing people like how the Daily Wire was. But like, there's not even an attempt on their side to build it up beyond like a couple of content creators that I assume are taking Democrat money that are, I think, kind of unbearable.
And it's like, I assume we're talking about the like New York Times thing that came out talking about the initiative to give $20 million to like basically astroturf a bunch of liberals. In that New York Times article, there was a portion where it said that these consultants met in luxury hotels to talk about how they need to analyze the issue from an anthropological lens, like they were looking at like a peoples from a faraway land. Why are we exoticizing white boys? Yeah, that's really what it comes down to. It's like you fundamentally do not understand the group that you're dealing with, and the language that you're using to talk about them is so out of touch that you are never going to be able to get your finger on the pulse of what's going on down here. Me and Jeremy, and all of us here are able to step outside and see that people are not happy with the Democratic Party. See that people do not fuck with the Democratic Party. The DNC has to focus group that 250 times to come to that conclusion.
John, before you give your take on this, do you remember when we did an episode going over, there were like 10 different recommendations they had for Democrats to capture the working class again? And one of them was like, we need to send Democratic operatives to tailgates and gun shows.
Oh, Jesus Christ, dog. That's terrible.
Right, that's what we said too. Yes. Look, if you don't already do that shit, you're going to stick out like a sore thumb. It'll be the hello, fellow kids type of moment. You will be mocked and laughed. That will do more harm than good. But of course, the Democrats thought of that idea.
If they just talk about taxing the rich and like going after the wealthy, and people that are at tailgates will join your political project, and then you don't need to send operatives there. Like, sorry, go ahead.
That's the thing. That's the thing. And again, we'll get back. It'll always circle back to this. They do not want to give up control. Mm-hmm. The Republicans, the GOP, when they lost in 2012, they did a lot of soul searching, and they went, well, fuck. There's no path forward. Everyone hates us. We are going to lose. We need to give part of our power to this Tea Party thing that's coming up, and getting a lot of real energy from a lot of young people. And what happened is those people took over the party. Like, those people took over the party. Was it bad for the entrenched powers that be within the GOP? Yes, it was. Was it good for the Republican Party? Look at what power they have now and tell me it wasn't. Yeah. Like, it's pretty clear and obvious, but they would rather not have power in the government than not have power in the party. And that can pretty much explain most of their decisions. The funny thing is, we brought up a guy on this show earlier who is liberal. I don't know exactly how far left he is, but I'd wager he's closer to us than he is Joe Biden, who is absolutely beloved by young men, by middle-aged men, and by white men in particular, and who's actually like an expert at coding left-wing messages in a way that conservatives will not only, it gets past their radar, they don't notice it, but they agree with it when they hear it because they didn't notice that it was a left-wing coded message. You guys know who I'm referring to here?
Are you talking about Bill Burr again?
Gotta be Bill Burr.
No, I'm not. No, not Bill Burr. I mean, Bill Burr does a good job of it, don't get me wrong, but he's a little past his prime. Shane Gillis is that guy right now. He's that dude. Like, he is probably the highest billed comedian at this current moment in time. I don't think anyone would really argue with that. And if you listen to him talk about political topics, you don't need to spend $10 million. Just watch him talk about it. And he does an excellent job of messaging these things without the eat the rich internet leftist vibes that immediately, raise people's bullshit detectors and don't let them listen to it, as well as the liberal wine mom vibes that, the moderate liberals tend to come with. And he just says it like it is. It's not that difficult if you just let the people who speak naturally like that have power. But they don't want to, because the people who speak naturally like that are a threat to them.
Yeah. Like, Gillis is an interesting character because he hangs out like the Theo Vons and the Joe Rogans and everything. He's in that crowd and they're all deep in Trump's pocket. And Gillis said, I remember him saying, no, I didn't vote for Trump. I actually don't like him. I remember, but you would guess that based on how he speaks and how he looks, that he would be a Trump supporter. So Trojan horses like that. And honestly, Trojan horse is incorrect. Like, a lot of normal guys would fit into the not Trump supporters, and you wouldn't know it. And we need to, make use of that. And what I write down here, Theo Von again. You think, Jeremy, you mentioned that the Republicans will pay a lot for folks like Theo Von or Jared Kushner. Hey, let's give you some money and make this work. That would be a lot harder on our side. And I struggle to put this delicately, but folks like that, like folks who are like default conservative, like Theo Von, they're kind of idiots, right? Like Theo Von doesn't know when he doesn't know. He's like, okay, this Kushner guy's gonna give me a bunch of money. I'll just take it to keep saying the same shit. He probably doesn't even know what he's talking about. That'd be a lot harder to find someone on the left side doing anything like that. And whatever the pup. Oh yeah, I wrote down a funny thing here about you guys. If you guys did take the DNC money, it'd be funny watching Head in the Office, and you guys are like, "Look, if you ask me, a public option is a bridge too far." I think that these insurance companies, they got to feed their families. What are we gonna do here? And
you'll lose a lot of jobs if you get rid of the private insurance.
Exactly. Yeah, right. Yeah.
I don't want to put for someone else's health.
Bill Clinton was a pretty good president.
Yeah, right. Yeah. All right, so a question here. How do you guys manage putting out content without rage baiting clips? I can't read today. How do you guys manage putting out content without the rage baiting for clips epidemic? Like, where's the balance because the news itself is so crazy? I do rage bait.
I was going to say, I think we do that a little bit, yeah.
I think there's a little bit of rage bait. I think we're better about it than a lot of other creators. I will say a lot of our content is nuanced. It's just got a little hook in there, you know what I'm saying, to get a little bit of views. I think not intentionally rage baiting just comes down to being authentic, because when I think of content that's like genuinely rage bait, it's content that's always like on the precipice of what's breaking, and it's the most high energy thing, and you can kind of feel an inauthenticity raging out of it, but it's like so just in your face that you can't really ignore it. And I mean, there have been times where we've got to a story like 10 days late and it's still been relevant because I think we bring a decent discussion to it.
Yeah, and I think at least for our kind of content, like sometimes we'll rage bait in the shorter form stuff, or just like put something, I don't know, shocking or brazen up at the front of the clip or something like that. But like, I feel like the rage baity stuff it's good for building an audience, and a lot of people get a lot of money off of it. but it's not good at building the kind of audience that we want, that like thinks through things and has thoughtful things to say and actually sits and listens to us break down why like Medicaid funding to states is important for X, Y, and Z. You know what I mean? Because we get very much in the weeds. So it's not the kind of stuff I'd want to make. Maybe we'd have more money if we did make it, though.
Yeah,
I don't know.
There's a lot of creators that get a high follower count off of doing a lot of rage baity content and just producing like a really high volume of things. But I think that a lot of that stuff is low engagement. You guys are in this too. You know about, like, you look at your videos, you see how many comments you get, you see the likes, you see the ratios with how many views it gets. I much prefer having a more higher engagement audience, even if it's less views, less followers overall, because those are people that you can drive to other things that you may want to drive them to, like maybe ballot petitions that are going to be going on next year, or even fundraisers like last year. And we did the PCRF fundraiser. We were able to raise like a solid amount of money because I think we've done the work to cultivate like a decent audience that cares.
So I'm gonna answer this kind of like Bruce Banner. How do you stop yourself from getting angry? I'm always angry. I don't intentionally rage bait. People just get mad at me.
There's it kind of a difference in some rage bait content too
of my authentic content. And I will admit, sometimes I will, especially like short form, like threads. I will word something in a way that is intentionally driving conflict in the comments, and I know I'm doing that, but the position I'm taking is entirely authentic. I'm fighting the rage because I stake my ground on this. I'm wording it in order to piss you off, but I do genuinely authentically believe the position I am taking and want to engage with it, and I'm using the bait as a way of bringing more people in. I think that's the way you toe the line. I've rarely will I say good things about Matt Walsh, but Matt Walsh does this excellently. He's probably the best rage baiter there is because he authentically
generational talent.
Generational talent.
I did generational talent.
Generational talent. Like, he's great at it. The way he baits rage is excellent, but he authentically believes the insane things that he's posting, and that's what makes it work.
I don't want to put any ideas out into the universe, but Matt Walsh is so good at the rage baiting. I often think of ways that he could, and just to see if he could. One of them I came up with is I'm waiting for the day for Matt Walsh to tweet out, "Black people are animals." Just straight up, just say that, and then when people.
He basically does.
And then when people get mad, say, "Well, listen, all humans are animals, right? What are you upset about? Are you denying the biological reality that all humans are animals?" That is something
that shit.
That is exactly something to which, right? And it's like, god damn. But I guess a lot of people don't have, I hate to say the courage, that's the wrong word, but the psychopathy to do something like that. But Matt Walsh just he's a great example of what you can do to gain the whole world, lose your own soul.
Matt Walsh almost got there when the Carmelo Anthony Austin Metcalf situation was happening. Like, I want to say like 3 weeks ago. I think the tweet that put me on to like what happened there was a Matt Walsh tweet talking about how like you see a headline like this and you know exactly what person did what, and it's like, brother, that's crazy.
I remember that one. It was, if I told you a story that there was a black man and a white man, and one of them stabbed the other because they wouldn't give up the seat, you'd already know which one was which. And then people were coming. He's like, "I didn't say. What are you talking about? I didn't say.
I didn't say. You're the one that thought it."
Yeah, this is explaining how you were thinking. Yeah, it's like I'm
just asking questions.
Yeah,
it's the lamest thing. You're such a nerd.
It is already. It's cowardly. Back to that. Back to the Jordan Peterson thing. It's cowardly. Okay. Oh man, we ran over. John, we got anything?
I don't think we got anything. Thank you, Jeremy and Gage. We got to have you on. Even if it's Tuesday, TJ, next time we have them on, we should do a 2-hour episode.
Plan for a 2-hour? It was. So we've changed up the format for the show a little bit. You guys haven't noticed too much since you've been here, but this show is 1 hour long, and we do questions and answer, kind of just shoot the shit back and forth. Harder with 4 people than with 3. It turns out, that
it's
format.
Very difficult to do questions for. Yes.
Really? Yeah.
Although, thank you to everyone watching right now who came over from Head in the Office. We definitely got some good questions. And usually on Tuesdays, you can ask me and TJ more direct questions. But we hope that you guys stick around. And everyone here, from the left wing, make sure to go check out Head in the Office. Those guys are excellent.
You won't regret it. Yeah. Catch you guys later.
Yeah, thanks for pulling up, everybody.
All right, folks.